Sorry, for those on Zoom, we'll be ready in just a minute. Okay, just give me hi. Just give me a minute. We'll be ready and be with you. We'll be with you very shortly.
Okay. Martin, is that just your background, or you're on a plane?
No, we just landed from Glasgow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it would have been a cool background.
Martin, you win the prize for the biggest serious nefesh. Where are you, Martin?
Just landed at Heathrow.
Heathrow. Okay. So we expect you back in the shul within
Traffic dependent.
Within a couple of minutes. Ellie, this is very nice. This is fine. Yeah.
Is that your coat over there?
No.
Do we need it around? No. You can't.
This is also fine. Some of these marks at the bottom. I would say the other one's nice if you're choosing between the two, but
yeah.
What was that?
That one's fine.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Beautiful Esther. Is it for you? It's your brother. Rochelle. Okay, good. Right, let's go. Okay, we're ready. Okay, David, we're now ready. Where's Avrami?
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we up to? Sorry about the slight delay. We are, yes, we've got to remember where we're up to. Hold on a second, it's been 2 weeks. What? Where are we? Lamed Aleph, wasn't it? Yes. Yeah, that's right. We're halfway through the story. Halfway through the story. Wish you well to weather. What do we say? Okay, Mark's going to say that. Mark's going to say that.
On the what?
Lamed Aleph on the base. That's right. So in other words, we basically, let's just recap a second. We had at the moment the point is one of them had the upper hand. You had two guys who debated over a field. This one says it belongs to my ancestors, Shalavosai, right? And the other one, and he says I've got the years of Chazaka, and the other one says it just belongs to my ancestors. So one of them brought Eidim that was belonged to his ancestors, and he had it for the years of Chazaka. And the other one just brought Eidim. They made the same. I think they made the same claim. That's right. They made the same claim, but one of them was deficient in the Eidim. That was the story, right? In other words, the other one of them did not have Eidim that it would belong to his ancestors. Okay, and therefore the whole debate between Rav Nachman and Rava was if you have achila canceling out, you cancel out the achila because they're contradictory, right? They can't both have used the field for 3 years, right? So you cancel out those. Remember, the whole machlokas between Rav and Rav Nachman was, can we salvage part of the edus? Remember that? Big things about yeah. Can we salvage part of the edus, even though the edim contradict each other on whether or not he actually lived in the field? The question is, can we salvage? Can we still use the edus, which is ostensibly on a different subject? And then we said, well, it looks like Rav and Rav Nachman have the same machlokas as Rav Huna and Rav Chisda, right? All right, we try to say it's the same machlokas because Rav Huna and Rav Chisda have a machlokas about base kitei edim, two different groups of edim, two sets of edim, which contradict each other. Rav Huna says, no problem, they can still testify about other cases. Rav Chisda says no, because they're clearly false, they're contradictory, therefore they're sheker in all cases. So we said no, because it could be that it's not comparable. Although it's true that Rav Chisda clearly Rav Nachman can't go like Rav Chisda, because Rav Chisda says even with another edus he disqualifies them. So obviously in this edus, but when it comes, okay, right. But when it comes to Rav Huna, we said that it could be that actually we can resolve as follows: that Rav Nachman holds like Rav Huna, and Rava says that I can also go like Rav Huna. Rav Huna says that they can testify in another case, and Rava says they can't, the answer is the cases are not comparable, because he'll say like this: Rav Huna only permitted them to testify in a totally different case. Our case is the same case. You can't bring Eidim if they're contradictory, right? Within the same case, they contradict each other because they must be lying, because one of them must be lying, right? You can't use them. You can't use them on the other part of Eidos for the same case, right? You with me, right? Yeah. Well, no. In other words, let's try and sort of rephrase it a slightly different way. Yeah. The halacha is like Rav Huna, that even if you have Eidim who contradict each other, that doesn't preclude them serving as Eidim in a totally unrelated case. That's what Rav Huna says. Straightforward, right? Right. Rav Nachman, the halacha is also like, on the previous Amud, says basically a similar thing, which is that even though the Eidim contradict each other and therefore they're both useless because we don't know who's telling the truth, right? About who was in the field for 3 years. So we've got to push that out of the way. Nevertheless, you can still believe the one set of Eidim that said it belongs to this guy's ancestors, because the other guy didn't talk about that. You with me? So on that point, they don't contradict. Now that's ostensibly quite similar to Rav Huna. But Rava will tell you, right? And Rav Nachman's happy. Rav Nachman and Rav Huna, they can definitely go together, right? But Rava, who says in this case you can't do that, he'll say that I only object to it because it's on the same case, because we're talking about the same field and the same people, and you can't start dissecting the Eidos and chopping it up within the same thing and say, well, this bit they're contradicting each other, but that bit they're not. You can't do that. But when it comes to a totally different topic, so you've got Eidim who contradict each other, and then you want to use them in a different subject, that's okay. That's okay.
So
Right?
they must be suspect. One of them we know is lying.
We know one of them is lying.
No, we got a contradiction.
No, we don't. Because
Who's lying?
Are they both saying they were there?
one set of agents say that the land belongs to the fourth class.
Yeah. On that point, there's no one lying. Potentially, yeah, no one lying. Yeah. There's no one lying.
Where's the contradiction?
Where's the contradiction?
Only one of them saying it belongs to the ancestors.
Yeah.
So what's the other one saying?
No, the other one is saying that he is in the field for 3 years.
Okay, so they're not actually contradicting.
But they both say that.
Two.
They both say that. That's the point. They both say that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's on there. Okay. I don't want to do
Whack that.
Rabbi's secret. Yeah. Trade secrets. Yes. Now, so we're up to. Okay, so now the case. We did do a Tosos, but I don't really want to go back into it. There was a Rabbi Chana, maybe another time. It's not something we can. I don't want to. It gets a bit involved about the strength of Eidim. When we say Trey Kamer, what does it mean? How Eidim? We just did that right at the end last time about Migo Mokum Eidim. Can you say Migo when it contradicts Eidim? We talked all about that. I don't think we should get lost in that. If you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines down. 11 lines down, and we're up to Hoda Isi Sadi. So the case is not finished. Now it takes a twist, a turn for the worse, you might say. Hoda Isi Sadi Davosihi. So the other guy who was on the back foot. Remember, we're going back to our case, right? Yeah, we're going back to our case now on the previous Amud, which was 2 people use the field for 3 years. So they say they each have Eidim they use the field for 3 years. One of them has stronger Eidim because his Eidim say that not only they testify that he was in it for 3 years, they also say it belonged to his ancestors. And the other guy only has Eidim for 3 years. But Hoda Isi Sadi, he then brings Eidim. He brings another set of Eidim who say that they belong to his ancestors. So now they're quits. Now they're equal. You with me? So the guy who's missing the Eidim of the ancestral holdings, yeah, he now comes up to Beis Din. The case continues, and he comes to Beis Din with a set of Eidim that say, yeah, actually, it belongs to his ancestors. So we got a problem now, right?
Both say they belong to their ancestors. They've got
They said it, but they don't have Eidim. Only one of them had Eidim. Now they both got Eidim.
And they both got Eidim with their.
Yes. Now the 3 years we've established we have to throw out.
Only one can be telling the truth.
Exactly. Now, ostensibly, okay. You could argue only one can be telling the truth here as well, because remember they both now have Adim. Well, okay, well let's see that for a second. Well, they're both got Adim that it belonged to their ancestors. They're not saying it was brought. They're not saying they both had Adim that belonged to their ancestors, right? But what the twist the Gemora has now is instead of now the focus of the next bit of the sugya is not on them anymore. It's now on Beis Din. The Beis Din have a big problem now. What's Beis Din's problem?
Who do we believe?
Yeah. And also, can we now change our psak? Because the case of the facts have changed. The circumstances have changed. Beis Din have issued the psak. What issue did it? Well, we pass like Rav Nachman. So Beis Din would pass like Rav Nachman. That was the decision made because we pass like Rav Nachman. Hilchos like Rav Nachman Bedini. Remember we said that the halacha is almost always like Rav Nachman when it comes to Choshen Mishpah, right? So Rav Nachman said, give it to the guy who has the stronger Adim, who's got Adim to testify along with his ancestors. Disqualify the 3 years business, give it to him. But then the other guy turns up with the same level of Adim. So what's Beis Din's problem?
Well, I mean, in a way, the second guy has got a stronger case.
Yeah.
Because he's got two distinct sets of aids.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. But I don't know if that would make a difference because in halacha, Trei Kamea, 2 Adim, you can't beat 2 Adim. The first guy's got 2 Adim as well. So the fact that he's got 4 and the other guy's got 2 is irrelevant. So that's not going to help you. But what's the problem that Beis Din have? This is going to sound very strange, but you've got to think about this. What this is going to talk about. You've got to think about this from a PR perspective.
They made a decision.
Seriously, think about it. Beis Din in Gadol in Yerushalayim have made a big psak and they've said everything right of Nachman. What are they going to do?
Made that decision.
They made.
Now he brings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you've got to think from PR perspective. I'm not making up. This is what the Gemara is going to talk about.
They can't just like so it's how it reflects on them.
Yeah. For a Beis Din to now, right, retract and say, actually, we made a mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very
Well, it is-
We're not reneging on the 45 pence.
That's exactly it. It takes a lot of guts.
Yeah.
It takes.
It's exactly
It
it
takes no. So the way the Gemara, right, but that doesn't help. You see, because, and then you're right. Is a good example. And that is because there's a concept called ziluso de beidina. Zil means to cheapen. Ziluso de beidina. There's a cheapening of Beis Din. There's a fundamental concern that it undermines the strength of Beis Din. People don't look at the detail. That's how it is, right? What's the headline in the Daily Mail?
Beis Din retracts.
Yeah, Beis Din retracts decision. In the very small print on page 15, it will say, "Oh, by the way, he bought another set of Adim." But no one's gonna,
The headline was Daily Mail because it's a random black man stands on stairs. But
It's only superficial.
yeah, they managed to print a picture of Kwasi Kwarteng. It wasn't him. It was just
Oh yes, that's terrible. Yeah,
Anyway,
that was awful.
that was
Actually.
awful.
Yeah,
But
so,
yes, no, exactly. Whenever you get a retraction from the public,
that's right.
it's always not as big as the initial. issue.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And people don't read the detail. They
They
read the
don't.
fine.
They just do.
They do.
It's the Beis Din can reopen the case that's been decided.
But who says they can't?
It's a capital.
Who
case.
says they can't?
It's too late.
Who says they can't? No, okay, fine, but here it's not. So who says they can't reopen a case? You can have case. You have new evidence that comes to light. We have this all the time in Beis Din now, right? And the cases that I deal with, the event when I dealing with Bira Yichus and working out people's Jewish status, not all the time, it happens and it causes a major problem. You can have we've had cases where 50 years later, 40, 50 years later, I was dealing with a case recently. It's actually still live because we haven't resolved it. We have new evidence that comes to light that throws into serious question a decision made in 1965
About what? Sorry.
about someone being eligible to get married. And new evidence has come to light.
They can't be married.
A massive problem. What? Well, no, she's now 80.
There's
She's now 80 years old, right? She's married. I mean, she's married. She's got kids. But we have a big issue now because what do we do with the kids coming to get married and the grandchildren, the great grandchildren? There's now no because okay.
There's no statute of limitation.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you discover material evidence that was hidden from the Beis Din at the time.
Okay, well, okay, fine. So that is
A fundamental fact. Let's say someone. I'm not saying this again. I don't want to even come close to what the case is. But let's say, and this is not the case.
Right.
Let's say you discover that a certificate was forged.
Yeah.
Let's say it was a conversion stick,
Right.
and it was forged, right?
That's
And it was
fundamental.
And it was accepted. It was accepted on the grounds of the cigar, and you discover that actually the whole thing was forged. The signatures were forged. The names were forged. Nothing was untrue. Now, there's no statute of limitations on that
Yeah.
because the person's not Jewish.
Yeah. Okay, fine. Is there such a thing as statute? of
These things
limitation
happen.
in halakha?
Thankfully, very rarely, but it happens. Well, that's why we try to be so careful with all the investigation work. And people say, "Why do you need so many papers?" This is why we need so much document.
Is there such a thing as statute of limitation in basic?
No,
No.
except if it's maybe media. We'll see.
Okay.
But basically, this is the question. Fascinating question. So the Gemora says like this: He brings Edim afterwards that it belonged to his ancestors, and now they both got Edim that belonged to the ancestors. Amar Rav Nachman says, "Anon achtine, anon maskinon lei." We took him down and we put him back in. In other words, the guy who we removed from the field because he was on a weaker foot because he didn't have Edim, we now put him back in. And you go say, "What do you put him back in?" I mean, he's not stronger than the other guy. He hasn't got a stronger position. And actually, really, it doesn't quite mean this. What you actually do is you basically say that no one has a stronger position. So what do? How do you resolve that? No, you follow a principle called Kol Alim Gvar, which is whoever's strongest wins. Now this sounds very dramatic and what? I don't know. Is that called? I think it comes into the sugya there, but it's not because there is the afloku, isn't it? But no. You're right in the sense, Romy. You're right in the sense that there's a question. Basically, the sugya of Kol Alim Gvar is later on. Right, it's also Rav Nachman. And the case in the Gemora is where you have two parties, both claiming it belongs to their ancestors. That's all. And that's all you've got. You know nothing else. You just got machlokus. They each say it belongs to their ancestors. And Rav Nachman paskins Kol Alim Gvar. And what does that mean? Whoever's strongest wins. Rashbam says there, bein b'rayas, bein b'koach. Whether it's in strength, forcing it out of his hand, or through bringing proofs. They can each try and bring stronger proof. It's difficult to get your head around. Again, this is another sugya, but it's difficult to get your head around a bit because it sounds a bit like law of the jungle. And it's a machlokas in the Gemara whether or not you do that, and when you say that, and how you say that. But the most important thing for our purposes is that we would apply this rule here. How that works is a later sugya, right? But ultimately, what Gemora means when it says "anon achtine, anon maskinale," Rachman says we put him in the field. We removed him and we put him back in. It means we restore his status, so that he's now equal to the other guy. What happens then? Okay, that's a problem. That will follow a different track now. Whether it means they fight it out between them, whether it means they can each now bring proofs. You with me as to who's stronger? Okay, as to who to enable them to get it. The point is we restore his status. And we are not worried about the impact that has on Beis Din. The zilus of the Beis Din, the way it cheapens Beis Din, and the way Beis Din are going to be reflected. Pardon? Why? Well, you tell me.
Evidence.
Because we can't in reality, we can't end up putting the honor of Beis Din before.
Yeah, I would say this is more straightforward. This is what you would logically say. This is the logical position to take, right? The logical position to take is, I would say, no, right? Is that yes, it's true. The honor of Beis Din will be dealt. It's a bit again after like today. The honor of Beis Din will be dealt a blow, but it is manifestly the right thing to do to cancel the 45p.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, right. And does that mean you're going to have to get up in front of the whole, the whole party and have to sort of like
Be contrite
about it? So be it.
Turn it around the other way. When are you concerned about some sort of
Interesting. It's interesting that because we'll have to see. The Gemara is going to bring a number of different cases when we are or not concerned about Zilus of the Beidina. So we'll have to hold on to that. But the sugi goes on to the next Amud as well. This sugya. But either way, that's Rav Nachman's position. But now let's just see the Rashbam on that. There's a few Rashbam, just a few. It's about 5 lines before it gets wide. Can you see that? Hada Aisi Sadi. Yeah. Then he brought Edim. Who brought Edim? Osto Shesida Rav Nachman, the one whom Rav Nachman caused to lose out. Yes, the one Rav Nachman caused to lose out. He brought he brought Eidim. They now both have Eidei Chazaka and Eidei Ovos, right? Eidei Chazaka and also Eidim that belong to their ancestors. And there is no strength of one over the other. And we say whoever is stronger wins. As Rav Nachman himself says later on in the Sukkot, all of Nachman. There's a lot of Rav Nachman text, so he's very quick in the Choshen Mishpat. Anon maskinun lei. So Rav Nachman paskend, we put him back in. We don't put one in a stronger position than the other because ultimately their edus is equal. The edus of the two of them, they are now on the same level. And that means we're not worried about the cheapening of Beis Din. I look carefully at this Rashbam because he kind of defines what the issue is. This Rashbam is very important. First wide line. Shema yilagligu abrius al Beis Din, right? Right? Maybe that people will laugh, will scoff. Lagleg is like to scoff, right? Of Beis Din. Al shasosrunes dinehem, right? And the fact that they contradict their words. V'domi lechuchav itzlula, and it's like a joke. Chuchav itzlula is like a bit of a joke, right? Yeah, right. It's a bit of a joke, you know. It's what
Makes light.
Exactly. It makes light of the whole thing because people are going to say they're socialist in AM. They contradict. They did. They're asking one way, now they're going to change their minds, right? And it looks silly. It looks silly, and this is a real concern. Why is it a real concern? You know, doesn't it seem to be a bit superficial? Well, let's understand it.
It doesn't seem to be a concern. The context of the evidence is now different. It's a different case now.
What do you mean?
Well, they both got Eidim that levels them up.
They both got Eidim that levels them up.
They both got Eidim that says it was their ancestors, and they both got Eidim that says they were there for 3 years.
No, but the point is that why is it that we're concerned? Why should we be concerned? Again, let's say the ball is on. What is the reason to be concerned about the way people treat Beis Din and the way people will look at down at Beis Din? Yeah.
If you undermine the authority of Beis Din, you have
Rule of law.
That's right. Anarchy, and also could argue that everything fundamentally is dependent on Beis Din, right? If Beis Din do not have the authority and they don't have and they don't have a mandate because people say, you see, they changed their mind and everything else. It's a thing, and this very concern comes up to this day in Beis Din. You know, this concern of zilusa de beidina, that people will say that it's a factor in halacha. You see that. Just want to see that.
I mean, your psak to protect the Beis Din's reputation.
You will. It's not a question of tilting the psak. You've given the psak, and to retract it on the basis, and this is very important, of new evidence that's come to light, which doesn't give you, because that might be relevant as well, doesn't give you a solution. The new evidence doesn't give a solution.
You have to retry.
It's not like you found that the Eidim was sheker. You understand?
So,
It doesn't give you a solution. It just it leaves you in limbo now. It's not like, you know, you all you're doing is you're going to be in a situation now where Beis Din are going to be stuck. If we take into account this new Eidim, we then have to say, well, no one beats anyone else. So you could say that maybe this only applies in this type of case. I don't know. We'll have to see. But this is you know what I mean? If let's say you came along and suddenly discovered that Eidim was sheker, and no one's suggesting you can't, we can't accept we're going to keep using these Eidim with sheker. That's not what's happened. It's just that new evidence has come to light, which means that one is not stronger than the other one.
and that may lead.
That does actually potentially raise the issue that the initial set of Eidim was sheker was uncontested.
Yeah. Yes, it's a concern now. Yeah, it is a concern.
That new evidence casts light on the first psak. It doesn't.
Yes. Well, it doesn't. What it does is it means we're now in a situation where we don't know. We don't know where the
We have to retract.
Yeah.
On weak ground.
we don't know what to do. Rav Nachman says we disregard the fact that Beis Din are going to look a bit silly, right? Because they retracted. We have to follow the law, follow the halacha, whatever it is. Now, Rava asked the questions. Rava asked the question on Rav Nachman as follows. This is a Gemora in Ksubas and also Yevomus, where you have two people who say that the husband died overseas, and two people say that the husband did not die. Two people give edus that she was divorced, and two people say she was not divorced. She was not divorced. So the question is, what do we do? What do we do? Is she allowed to remarry or not? Is she allowed to remarry or not? You've got contradictory edim. Right? And we'll see there's different debates. There's a debate as to what exactly the case of Niskarsha is, whether it's someone getting married to someone else, someone to do Yibum. But either way, you've got a contradiction, right? So she's not allowed to get married. But if she did get married, she doesn't go. We don't make her leave. She can stay with her husband. Okay, that means b'di'evet, right? That means b'di'evet, right? Now that's the Tanna Kama holds. That's Tanna Kama. Tanna Kama says you can't permit her to marry because you haven't got the Eidim contradict each other whether the husband's dead or not, right? But if she did, she can stay with him. That's what happens. And they say slow takes. Doesn't have to be. Rav Nachman says no. She has to leave. She has to go out because there's no permission to marry. Therefore, she can't stay married if she got married, right? Rav Nachman said, when do I say that she has to go out, that she doesn't stay with the husband? That's only when Adam came along and then she got married afterwards. Then she has to leave. Let's say she got married, okay? And then afterwards, the second set of Adam come along. So she got married in perfectly good faith. Two Adam came along and said that Joe Bloggs died overseas, and therefore you can get remarried. And then after she's already married, two other Adam show up. In that case, he says, I agree that she doesn't have to leave. She can stay with her husband, right?
There's a very famous film called The Return of Martin Gare, which was exactly the situation.
Oh, really?
It goes out to war.
Right.
Somebody returns
Yeah.
claim to be him.
Right.
She stays married to him and actually turns out to be a much better person than her old husband.
Uh-huh.
And then people come along subsequently and say, actually, I saw this part of
Yeah. Well, there were real cases in the Holocaust of this. There's a famous tshuva of Rav Chaim Oshri, which I think I might have mentioned in the past, about the Mamzer Rabbi. You know about this?
No.
Oh,
Which one?
It's a terrible case because basically what happened was it was a lady who survived the war, and she thought her husband had died, whether there was Adus or not, or people said whatever. She remarried, they had a son, and then her husband turned up. But it was many years later they found that the husband was still alive, and the son had meanwhile qualified as a rabbi, and he was the Rav of a town somewhere. He was the Rav of a shul or a town or whatever, and he was a mumler. And then they had the question what to do. Can you have a mumler serving as the Rav? Isn't that terrible? It's awful.
He can't marry. Was he married?
But he can't marry. But this was the shaila that was asked specifically was actually about whether it was fitting for him to be appropriate for him to be the rabbi. No, it wasn't.
He had to resign.
I don't know what happened, but
Was
that's
he married?
If he was married, he'd have to. If he was married, he'd have to leave. He'd have to get divorced.
That was terrible.
Sorry, it's awful. It's awful. Those are the worst cases we have in the basin in Mamzeris. Mamzeris is the worst. Mamzeris is the worst.
If we get remarried,
Mamzeris is the worst because there's no solution. If it's a confirmed mamzer, we try our best to try and solve it. There's a Mamzeris, you can't stop it. It goes on every generation. There's no way. There's no end to it.
So
There's one solution, but there's a debate whether you can do that
he
nowadays.
wants to marry another
Yeah,
woman.
marry Shivcha. Technically a mamzer can marry another mamzer, but they don't. It's been for many years. It's an accepted practice not to allow mamzer to marry another mamzer because it encourages perpetuation of mamzeros.
Right.
So we don't allow it. Unfortunately, never. What they do in practice is they go marry reform. That's what they do in practice. Cases of mamzeros. Berlin was terrible, but the point is that we have cases where they come every generation to the base temple. They come in the 50s. They came in the 1950s, and they came in the 1980s, and they come again now.
Or mamzer.
Yeah, no, they are mamzer. And each generation come again to the base to see if there's any way, and they can get married and whatever. they meet with them and go through it with them each generation, the same families.
And there's no.
There's nothing you can do. Nothing you can do because some of the cases are intractable. There was a famous case. It's well known in the Beis Din. There's a case where I think in the 1950s someone married his sister-in-law Shalom b'Mokum Yibam. In other words, his wife died. Other way around. Other way around. Well, the husband died.
Father died.
Yibum case. Reuven always dies. That's the cloud. That's Yibum. That's Yavamas, right? Reuven dies, and then there were children or something like that, right? There was a case where it wasn't Yibum, right? You understand? It wasn't Yibum. There were children, for example, and she married. I think it's a around whatever. She married his brother. If that makes sense.
And
Shalom Mokum Yibum is an Erefa. It's one of the Arroyos, the children of Mamzera. You're not allowed to marry your.
I never understood.
Only in Yavamas you're allowed to. Yibum, what? Shalom Mokum Yibum. Am I said it right? I said that's what it is. Shalom Mokum Yibum. It's a Yavamas case without.
There's no Yibum.
So why did they make it Yibum?
They have children.
But so the back street.
How did it happen?
Because it would be known that he was the brother of the deceased.
Who married them?
No, well, they may have got married in an orthodox setting or a registry office or whatever.
Just being a backseat nine, can't you just say they never got married because it wasn't a proper marriage?
We won't help you here
Why?
because there's two ways of mamzeros being created.
Yeah.
One is if you're with someone else and within marriage, so a woman sleeps with another man and they have a kid.
Yeah.
That is mamzeros. She's a married woman, number one, right? But another case is where there's a child who's produced from an heir of a relationship, like a brother and sister, and that's very outrageous because that's very unlikely to happen, right? So this is a case where you can see conceivably would happen, right? Excuse the pun, but that's basically what happened, and it's terrible. 3 generations anyway. So there we are. So this is anyway. Where do we get? Why do we come up with this? Okay, yes, talking about this right. This is the case here. This is the case here. Now, the halacha is that if she gets married, lo teitze. According to Menachem Rabbi Yossi, and now that's according to Tanakama, not the halacha. That's not the halacha. Actually, halacha is like Menachem Rabbi Yossi. Menachem Rabbi Yossi says she does have to leave, but he says only when the Edom were present before. But if she got married and the Edom came along, she doesn't leave. She doesn't leave. Omar lay. Oh, so what's the question? What do we see from here? What do we see from here?
Timing's important.
Yes, but we also see that we are worried about the zilus of the Beit Din. That's what we're worried about, aren't we? What's from Menachem Rabbi Yossi's svara? Why should it make a difference when the Edom come? Either way, if he says there's a problem because you've got contradictory Edom and one of the Edom are supporting her and one of them aren't, right? So she should have to be divorced. What's the difference if she got married based on the first set of Edom and then the Edom, the next set show up? Why is it that then she can stay?
I don't think you say it's because it's also about that situation. You're saying that potentially because of Mamzera. Much bigger issue.
The mamzerim are going to be a problem anyway.
No, but the point is, if they allow her to stay married, despite the witnesses coming along afterwards, then effectively they are protecting. She's protected, isn't she? The children are protected.
What do you mean? Why are the children protected?
Because the testimony of the witness of the second set of witnesses was not available at the time of her marriage, and therefore at the time that she was married, it was genuine, as you said.
Okay, but that again, that ultimately, fundamentally, her situation is the same. It doesn't make a difference. What should change about whether or not she got married in between the two sets of Edom coming? There's no difference to her situation now. Why does it make a difference when she got married? Either way, we have a doubt over her status. Okay, but what's the difference? What's the difference whether there was a doubt when she got married or not? The only difference can be in terms of the fact that she was given a heta. Beis Din gave her a heta. They told her you can get married. Edom have said your husband's dead, you can get married, right? That's the only difference. And therefore we see That's right. That Rav Nachman bar Rabbi Yossi is worried about. So listen to the Beit Dinner. He is worried about what the reflection on Beis Din will be. Beis Din give a psak. It's published on the front page of the Jewish Chronicle that they've allowed a woman to get remarried. Very revolutionary. It's not that revolutionary, but that's why they make it out. Very revolutionary because they've allowed a woman to get remarried, even though we don't have whatever. Because Aiden came along and said he died at war, and therefore they can allow her to get remarried. Right? It's big news. The next day, 2 other Aiden show up. So based on what you're going to the next week's JC, can you imagine what's going to say? Scandal, woman got remarried already, they're making her get divorced. So Rav Nachman says, no way. We're not having any scandals, thank you very much. It would cheapen the whole perspective on Beis Din, and therefore, if Beis Din had given her a heter to remarry, that's it.
And what's the status of the children?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Because if the status
Here we're
of
not
the
discussing the status of the children at all, right? You have to remember the maximum the children would be, according to everyone, and remember the Tanna Kama says in every case she doesn't go out. She doesn't, if she's already married, she blows say. The maximum is going to be what we call a Sophic mamzer. It's not going to be a Vade mamzer. It's 2 against 2, right? It's not a definite mamzer, right? It's not a definite mamzer. Yeah, the Gemora doesn't discuss the children in that. Yeah.
Just the mind of said to actually give that as a reason.
Yes, that's the Gemara's question. That is his question. That is Rob's question. Robert says, you, Rav Nachman, are saying that we're not worried about the cheapening of Beis Din, but you see clearly Rav Nachman Rabbi Yossi is, and he's a Tana, right? So the Gemara says, Omalei, he said to him, Ano Sovri. Rav Nachman says, I thought, Lemevad Uvda, I thought to, what was it? Okay, you're still there? Yeah, because my phone is on 12%. All right.
Yeah.
Just
Still here.
okay, good.
Don't
My
worry
phone
if
is
you
on low
gotta-
battery, so if it goes, then phone David. And okay. Right. So okay, so this is it. So basically, that he says like this: Anos Savri lemevad uvda. I thought to paskin on the basis of my ruling. Rav Nachman says that we were not worried about the cheapening of Beis Din. Hashta de'osivton at. Now that you've asked me this question, v'oisva and Rav Hamnuna b'Surya, and Rav Hamnuna in Syria has asked me the same question from that statement. Rav Rabbi Yossi, obviously, we attacked him as well on the same grounds. I'm not going to paskin in this way, and I'm going to retract what I said. It's a fascinating thing. The whole discussion is about cheapening of Beis Din. Comes on Rav Nachman and says, "I'm going to retract." Do you understand? Rav Nachman is the one who says we're not. Rav Nachman is the one who says we're not worried about the zilusa of Beis Din. He is being forced into a corner where we are worried about the zilusa of Beis Din, the cheapening of Beis Din, and therefore he says, "I'm going to retract to say that we are concerned about zilusa of Beis Din." So he's going to retract because to say we are worried, right? But then the Gemara says, "Nofak ovad uvta." He actually did go and paskin as he originally ruled that we are not worried about the cheapening of Beis Din. So this is very confusing. It's gone backwards and forwards. You understand? Rav Nachman originally said, I disregard what it looks like for Beis Din. Yeah, exactly. They asked him a question, we are. So he was going to retract and change his mind and actually take into account what it looks like for Beis Din. But then at the end of the day, he went by his original ruling. So Man the Chozar, the one who saw what went on, Sova to also be this before he made a mistake. Because he made this big declaration. He made this big declaration that I'm gonna change my mind. We'll have to worry about the way it looks to Beis Din. But actually, that was incorrect. And the reason why he retracted is because he had literally Ashli Ravi is like big trees to rely on, right? He had major authorities which supported his position that we're not worried about the way it looks like to Beis Din. So in other words, he didn't make a mistake. He originally thought he would change his position and take into account the way it looks like for Beis Din because he was asked this major question from Rav Nachman bar Rabbi Yossi, where you see that we are concerned. But then, in the end, he stuck to his guns and he said, no. Like you said, yeah, we go with it. If we need to change our mind, we need to change things, we change things. And the reason why he said that was because he had the support of 3 major authorities, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Loza, and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. But we're going to see from 3 cases, the Gemara is going to bring 3 scenarios where in each case you see that these major figures were not worried about the way it looked for Beis Din. they did a Lahavdil quasi cartoon. What's it called? They got up and said, "No, we've got to change course." Yeah, Lahavdil. Anyway, yeah, that's the answer. That's the thing. So we'll see. Let's see the Rashbam. Let's see the Rashbam now before we go through see what we time of these cases. So the Rashbam is the second. The second line, second wide line. A woman whose husband went overseas, and two Adim came and they told her, Meis Balich, your husband died. And the other two say he did not die. He did not die. Or two said that that she died, that she was divorced, right? She was divorced in the lifetime of her husband. So it's not an overseas case, but it's just well, it might be, but it's the point is that two Adim say she got divorced when her husband was alive, and she doesn't therefore have to do yibum because she was divorced before he died. And two others say she was not divorced as therefore she has to do yibum. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it. Inami, alternatively, the case could be Kagoin Shehoya. The case is Kagoin Shadayin Bala Kayim. Her husband's still alive, but boy in Lahatira La Acher, and they're coming to allow her to marry someone else. Nothing to do with the Yovam, to Yibum, because her husband's alive, just divorced. Right? And the question is she allowed to marry someone else? Say she's not allowed to get remarried because we say it's 2 against 2. And the woman remains in the chazaka of a married woman. So what the Rashbam here does is he provides us with a few very important things. Number one, he says that you need to split the two cases up, right? You've got the case of the debate over whether the husband died. That's a case of aguna, right? Is he dead or not? Can she get remarried? That's on one side. Then you've got this other case of divorce, niskarsha. Two say that she's divorced, and two say that she was not divorced. Well, then in that case, there are two ways of understanding the case. Either it can be a case where he's also dead, right, now. And the question is, there's a machlokes in Eidim, is there yibum? Right? Otherwise, was there a get given before he died? So there's no yibum, right? That's the question, and that's a fundamental problem because otherwise she's not allowed to marry anyone else. If I'm on a shuk, right? She has to, right? Okay, she has a big problem, right? And of course that's also again going to be a problem with an erva because if there was a get, she's osa to the brother mishum erva. Yeah. It's Eishes Ach. The brother is not allowed to marry his brother's wife, except for Mokum Yibum, right? That's the whole paradox of Yibum, yeah? It's an erva, it's also Mishum erva, like all the other aroyas. After divorce, you can't.
Still can't.
Of course not. It has to be before.
No, afterwards you can't marry a husband's brother.
You're not allowed to marry your brother's wife, except
But even after the couple, if
if
the brother's divorced,
except in the case of Yibum. What?
if the brother's already divorced, wife, still can't.
Absolutely. Grushas Ochev, it's called. Yeah. Grushas Ochev. That's right.
And how can she obviously doesn't have a document.
No, no, absolutely. Yeah, we don't. Yeah,
And can we accept that someone says they're divorced without a get?
you have to remember that well, what do you mean? Okay, well,
if she had a get with the actual document, then there'd be no harm.
Well, that's a different sugya about whether or not a woman comes along and says she's divorced, whether you believe her or not. Quite similar to what Zafirmi is at the moment, a little bit. It's about what the sugya subas at the moment is about how what you can claim without a get, or just with a ksuba. One comes just with a ksuba or just with a get, whatever. But anyway, so no, but it's very common that there can be a number of reasons why a woman won't have a get, right? I mean, nowadays, a woman never gets a get. She's given the get, but then she doesn't keep the get. It's kept and basted.
It's recorded.
It's never given. No woman is ever given a get. All getting, all kept and basted. Because there are a number of reasons. What? Lose it, but yeah, it's kept and basted. Or it's also made possible straight away. I think I told you that. It's called Kara Basin. They rip it up straight away. They don't tear it up completely. They cut it up.
Why?
After all that hard work of the sofa. As soon as she's received it, it's cut. It's cut. They cut diagonal cross section in the middle of it, so no one can puzzle it. You have to remember that on that get rests
Generation.
Yeah, because she gets remarried. If there's someone come along and say there's a problem with the get, you're going to question all of the subsequent children.
Surely you could produce 4 cut up pieces of paper.
You stick them together.
You could stick them together. Yes, I did what I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
I think we do it so that every get is possible, and that's like a sign you can no longer open it and question it again. It's not cut a piece of paper, they cut
Are they okay?
they slice it. It's
like
still
a-
one hot, it's like a craft, like a kid's
Okay.
craft thing. Yeah.
Right, okay. So it's
They
still
take a
hot.
pair of scissors and they fold it in quarters.
Yeah.
They fold it in quarters and they take a pair of scissors and cut it.
Whereas
Like,
it only becomes possible after.
it's one of the sofas. I have to see it every time because he writes it. It takes hours. It takes a long time.
It's possible afterwards. It can't be reused.
Yeah, obviously it has to be kosher when it's given, but then afterwards, and then they keep it on file. Then it's kept. Then it's kept in Bastin. But either way, what she gets is a get certificate, which is a certificate, piece of paper signed by the dayanim, which is a heter to remarry. That's what she gets, right?
Is it every based on just another?
Yeah, also, pretty much. These are standard things I think across all Botei Din as far as I know. Okay, so the Gemora says. So anyway, this is the case. So in the case with divorce, there can be another case, which what the Rashbam says. You can have a scenario where a husband was alive, and then nothing to do with the case husband's dead, and they want to allow her to remarry, and that's a machlokus between the two Adam. Can she get remarried or not? Right? In other words, did she receive a get? Nothing to do with a dead husband, right? Anyway, that's what it says, and then the Rashbam says a very important point. Why is it that she can't get married? Because she has the cheskas eshes esh. It's a chazaka. Her chazaka is she was married. We know she was married. So we don't know whether she's left that status. The halacha of chazaka is, if you don't know a situation has changed, then assume it hasn't changed. The default is going to be what it was before. That's your default position, right? But if she gets remarried, she doesn't leave. After the fact, yes, but not lechatchila. Of a parak Rishishnis Amala Parchinon, in the parak Rishishnis Amala, we asked the following question in Ksubas Michtei Trey Treininu, since they're 2 against 2, he can't live with her, because if he lives with her, he has a mere korban, Asham Tolui. Asham Tolui is the korban you bring when you're unsure if you've done something wrong. We're going to say it to Mitzvah tomorrow, right? But Asham Tolui, one of the things we list, right? What's Asham Tolui? What? You do, no? Asham Tolui, yeah. Well, what's Asham Tolui? Got to know. It's actually very useful. Well, that's why these are things we need to know. See the machzor, because everyone, we're going to say all these things, all the korbanos. You have to know what each one is bought from. The back of the article has it all. It tells you where everyone is bought from. Asham Tolui is where you have a doubt whether you've done something wrong or not. This is a classic example of Asham Tolui, 2 against 2, right? But it means that the person can never live with her. So what do you mean she can't leave him? But every time he has a relationship with her, he has to bring a korban because it's a doubtful, questionable sin, questionable asham, right? The Gemara says, Rav Sheshes answers, the Gemara answers that Rav Sheshes she married one of her Eidim. Now, what does that mean?
Can't be an aid.
No. The Eidim are sure. So you don't bring an Asham Tolui unless you're unsure. Case of an Asham Tolui is where you eat the classic example in Gemara is no one increases, yeah? You eat a piece of chaylev, not just chaylev or shum. That's the classic example, right? Yeah? Or you eat a piece of, as far as I remember, you eat a piece of meat and you're not sure whether it's a chaylev, forbidden fat, or permitted, right? That's the doubt, right? Here, if she marries one of the Eidim, they don't have a doubt. They know. They're 100% sure. So they don't bring an Asham Tolui. Asham Tolui you bring if you are not sure if you've done something wrong. They are 100% sure they haven't done anything wrong, right? But what about her? The super chinon, he go for Asham Tolui Kai, but she's not sure. She's not bringing Asham Tolui. Mashani, but Umeres Barli Shemis Bali. The case is where she says that she's sure her husband died. Are you with me? So the only case you can have this scenario where she got remarried and you let her stay and there's no korban to bring, which is going to ruin the whole thing of letting her be married, because you can't, because you have to bring a korban. So obviously they can't stay married, whatever, right? It's going to be a scenario where there is no Asham Tolui. When is there no Asham Tolui? When both parties are sure they're doing the right thing. Because you don't bring an Asham Tolui unless you're not sure, when they're both sure. Even though we're not sure. Asham Tolui is interesting. It's dependent on the person. Bisman Shabo Eidim. By the way, that's why it's called an Asham Tolui. What does Tolui mean? But what's hanging?
Dependent on.
No, but as far as I recall, it's called an Asham Tolui because it suspends the punishment until such time as you can bring a chatos, and for sure, for definite. It's a way of a person who's unsure whether they've done something wrong. They bring the Asham, which suspends the issue affecting them, so to speak, min hashamayim. And they bring the korban because it suspends. I think so. Now, Vimnises, I think so. I think that's why it's called that. Yeah. Bimnises, we said that, sorry, Bisman Shabo Edim. So when is this Rachman Rissi says that's only when Edim came or Acharonim, the latter set of Edim came, Shamru Lo Meis, says that he did not die, but sorry, Shamru Lo Meis, he said he did not die, and then she got married afterwards. Lefichoch Teitze, therefore she has to go out. Shaharei Nisei, Shaharei Be'isser, Nises. She got married Be'isser. She ilu shalom based in or say if they ask, she asked based, and they tell her you're not allowed to get married. So this, Rabbi Yossi says it's only when the latter set of Edim who said that she did not came, they came first, and then she got married afterwards. But if she got married through the Edim of Misa of death, shetirua based in Inose, based in permitted her to get married. And then Edim came along, actually was alive. She doesn't have to go out. She can stay with her husband. Because we're worried what it looks like for based in the Kashan. Are you still there? Yeah, they're still there. Great. Okay. And he said like this. Rav Nachman says he thought he thought to do it to Paskin that we take him down, we put him back up again, and we're not worried about the cheapening of based in our scenario. But now the Osvison Heshivtun Heshivisunim Bryce, you've asked me a question from this Bryce, but Osfon Rav Hamnuna, Heshivlo Kamoke, and Rav Hamnuna also responded in the same way. Mehor Bryce to Rav Menachem Rabbanon. He asked the same question from Rav Menachem and Rabbanon. He says, I'm going to change my mind. And then we said, no, in the end, Nofak Ovad, Rav Nachman Ovdav Lo Choshlis Lust Beidino. He went like he originally said. He wasn't worried about the cheapening of based in, right? So someone who saw this thought, Tosi Biyode, he must have made a mistake. He didn't remember the brisa of Menachem Rabbi Yossi. And furthermore, he said, I'm not going to go like a marriage nor ruling. And yet he did. And the answer is because the Talib Ashli Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Elazar, Rishon ben Gamliel, they all hold as Ravashi explains in the conclusion of the Sugya. These three opinions all hold that we do not worry about the way it looks like the based in, and we paskin what the right thing to paskin is, and that's how it is. And that's where Rav Nachman also held like that, and he stuck to his guns. He wasn't worried about the question of Rabbi Yossi because he had them to support him. So Mitzvah Hashem, next time we will we'll continue that. It's obviously a busy time of year, but just a very, very brief thing. The reason why I think it was very important, especially to learn tonight, you will, apart from the it's always important to learn, especially as there's Tshuva. There's a if you look in Tefillah Zakah, so you know Tefillah Zakah that we say, that people some say on their Yom Kippur or whatever, when you can say it for so there it goes through, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't got the text with you. I'm going to Oh, you're the Machzor Yom Kippur Machzor? Oh, well, it's worth seeing. 1 second, the last second. Where is it?
I'll get it. Here? Yeah, go down. Left hand side. Oh, there we go. Look at this. He says like this. He says in there, it goes through all the Chamisha Inuyim, the 5 things, and it talks about what all the different things we do should be mechaper. Do you think we're putting it in the big one? Should do. Oh, yeah, here it is. Yeah, they put like so you know it goes through. Tefillah Zakah goes through each of the 5 things we don't do on Yom Kippur, and it should be mechaper for each different things we might have done wrong, right? And then now there's one thing here though. There's a remark. Here we go. Yeah. It says like this: through embracing the Sefer Torah, the kissing of the Sefer Torah that we do at the beginning of Kol Nidre, just before Arzur al Tzadik. Yalu v'yovo v'yagiu. It's start from one kol tefillas absulas she'espalim b'chol hashana b'lo kavana. That should like atone for all of the apostle tefillas. Davening well on Yom Kippur should atone for all of the tefillas that we've done wrong during the year. V'yu klolam nichlolos b'tefillas hayom hazeh v'yagiu l'rosh chodesh. Should come to your head v'liyos atar l'rosh chodesh v'chal tefillas Yisrael. So they include in the tefillas of Yisrael. It's an incredibly beautiful paragraph, and it's just very noteworthy that included in those words is not just the davening, and the chibuk v'nishuk sefer Torah. Through embracing the Sefer Torah, that also should sort of like make up, if you like, for those tefillas that we've davened in a deficient manner during the year. So it just occurred to me that this phrase, thinking of learning tonight, there seems to be a special idea that there's an opportunity also to perhaps make up for those times when we didn't learn as much as we should learn, whatever, etc., etc. So just thought it was a nice thing to end on. Shavik Machsim Tova. Mitzvah the next year will be the week after Simchas Torah. Next two Mondays are Yom Tov. Yom Tov.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks for joining. Martin, are you home yet?
No. I had to get back
Martin's
to the
down.
terminal. I found someone's passport in the pod, so I went back to the terminal.
Oh, mitzvahs. You found someone's passport in the pod. She went back to give him the pod. Okay, well done. Okay,
All right.
fine. My phone is about to end.
Yeah.
Gemara Chasima Torah.